Hi, welcome to another fun Algebra 2 video. Hopefully you're doing okay in Algebra 2. I know some things we've been doing, writing the equation of a line, especially in standard form, is throwing some of you, but just hang in there. Today's is a little bit easier. Notes 2-4, linear inequalities. Now we're going to be graphing linear inequalities, and it sounds complicated, but it's really not. The graphs of linear inequalities involve two things. First thing is draw your line. You're going to draw, so write this in with me, draw a dotted or shaded line. Maybe I said shaded, I meant solid. Dotted or solid line. And I'll tell you how you decide in a second. So draw a dotted or solid line. And then you shade your solutions. Shade, I'll say the solutions. Shade the solutions. And I'll tell you how to decide where your solutions are. And it all has to do with that verb, if it's less than or is it greater than your line. And this is S-O-L-U. U-T-I-O-N-S. Okay, so here's your steps right down here. If you like numbers instead of just dots, you can number your steps over here. So you first solve for y. That means get the y by itself. If you need to, write yourself a note, get y by itself. And then second, you graph the line. And we're going to use the slope is with the x. You kind of treat this less than sign that looks kind of scary and kind of your brain freaks out a little bit, but you just treat that like a equal to sign when you're graphing it until you have to do the shading. So this would be your slope, this would be your y-intercept. You start with your y-intercept, go with the slope. I'll show you that more thoroughly in a second. And then you decide, is it solid or dotted? So that's your third step. And then fourth, you pick a side. And you don't really pick a side. You have to decide which one makes sense for my solutions. Okay, so over here, notice we're going to do step one. Solve for y, get y by itself. So let's go ahead and write by itself to remind yourself. Okay, so we need to get the y by itself. So first you get rid of what's being added or subtraction, or what's attached by addition or subtraction. So this 4x is attached by subtraction, but it's a positive 4x. We minus 4x to both sides. These cancel. 10 minus 4x are not like terms, so you just write 10 minus 4x or negative 4x plus 10. They're the same thing. 10 minus 4x is the same as negative 4x plus 10. Then notice they still have to get the y by itself. They divide it by negative 2. And notice when you divide by a negative, look down here at your notes. Look what this says. This is important. You must flip the sign when you divide or multiply. Now we didn't have our multiply in the last notes. We probably should have. Or multiply both sides of the inequality with a negative number. So right up here we divided by negative 2. So notice, look, it was facing to the left. Now it's facing to the right. So y is greater than, and you have to divide this, right here, negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. And then you also have to divide this. And if you want to, you can write it out separately. You could have written y is, let's write the negative 2y in so you can see what I'm talking about. Negative 2y is less than negative 4x. This is negative 4x plus 10. So we have to divide everything through by negative 2. And let me clear this up for you. In case you got behind, you're like, what's that little mark? And is it negative? Yes, it's negative. So divide this by negative 2 and divide this by negative 2. And some of you, it's just easier to understand that way. And then this became 2. These cancel. And then 10 divided by negative 2 is this negative 5 right here. So now how do you graph it? Well, first of all, you have to decide, we graph the line. Oh, first we're going to decide where the line goes. So you start at your y-intercept -5. That's your b. Y equals mx plus b. In this case, it's y is greater than mx plus b. And I'm going to keep the greater than sign. But it's still linear. So it's still mx plus b. So this is your slope, y-intercept. So we started our y-intercept, put a dot there, and our slope is 2 over 1. Because there's no fraction, so you make it a fraction form by putting it over 1. So your rise is 2, so you start at -5, you go up 2. Let me write that in for you in a different color. Up 2 over 1. Do it again. Up 2 over 1. Do it again. Up 2 over 1. That gives you lots of points. And then notice it keeps doing that over and over and over. Now when you make your line to decide, is it solid or dotted? Make yourself some notes. Solid means it's this verb or this verb. Dotted, because the solid means your solutions can be on that line. They can equal that line. The dotted are less than or greater than and not equal to, because they're only greater than up here on this side or less than underneath over here. So this one is strictly greater than, so it's going to be a dotted line. So notice there's a dotted line there. Then it says pick a side and shade it. This is how you decide. This says that y is bigger because the sign eats what's bigger, or the open part is toward what's bigger. The y's are bigger. Well, think about it. If the y's are bigger, y goes up or it goes down. Up is greater, down is lower. So you go to your line, and we're going to use, let me use, maybe, I guess it doesn't matter. I'll use some purple here. Now what you're going to do is you're going to shade, just going to shade it in over here above, all the way to the line. And you just kind of put some pencil marks. Or if you have, use the side of your pencil, you can just kind of go like this and shade it in over here. Okay, I was going to use a highlighter, but with this new version, I can't find the highlighter right off. It's here somewhere. Oh, there's the highlighter. Look at me finding the highlighter. So you would shade it. So if you have a highlighter, it's kind of a cool thing to shade over here above this line. Mine's not very neat, but you get the idea. Okay, and really that's it. I'll do one example with you real quick. Okay, next page. Actually, I'm not going to do that example with you. That one's just y-intercept, slope, and you're going to shade above it. It's going to be a dotted line. This next one, let me go back to a pen. Tricky stuff, trying to figure this new version out. Where's my choices? Oh, maybe here. There we go. Pen. And then, okay, let me use black. So here, you need to get the y by itself. So you have, you got a minus the 3x to both sides. So I like to just write it right out next to it, because if we wrote it underneath it, you have to write it out next to it eventually anyway, because they're not like terms. And then we have negative 5y. Let's write it out here so we have lots of space to make it neat. And then divide by negative 5. Now remember, when you divide by a negative, what do we need to do? I thought I put that bubble on this page, but I think it's on the next page. Right here. If you go to the next page real quick, flip there, you need to write in this bubble what you need to do. So if you look back to the front page, you can just copy it or write it in your own words. And it says you must flip the sign when you divide or multiply both sides of the inequality with a negative number. And this is just off the front page. That was a weird looking eye. So you should have written this along with me. So you're not just sitting there waiting for me. If so, you could have fast forwarded me. That's kind of nice about a video. Alright, so back here, we divided by a negative number. We need to flip not the negative sign, not the positive, but this sign, the verb. Maybe we should have said you flip the verb. So now we have y is greater than or equal to, the equal to sign stays there, negative 3 plus 3/5 x. Whenever you can't divide these, you just leave them as a fraction. Alright, so we start at negative 3. That's our y-intercept, because remember, that's the one without the x. And then we're going to go up 3 over 5. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we're going to go up 3 again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's our line. Let me see if I can get my shape pen, actually. Nope, they have a creative pen. I don't see my shape pen, so let's see if I can just draw a line. Okay, so it goes right through here. And it really should have arrows on both ends to show that it just keeps going and going and going forever in both directions. There's my arrow. Okay, but, you know, I just drew the line. I didn't even consider, is it a solid line or dotted line, so I might have to erase it. Greater than or equal to. Let's go back to our first page. Well, what does it say? Solid or dotted? Solid is, if it has a little equal to sign, it's solid. If it doesn't, it's dotted. So I lucked out. I don't have to erase it because it has that little equal to sign. It's going to be a solid line. And I know you guys sometimes get ahead of yourselves just like I do. I got ahead of myself and I just drew my line and I didn't even think, oh, is it solid or dotted? So it's a good idea to have your steps right in front of you. Alright, and then the last step is shade. So let me go grab my highlighter. And we have to decide, okay, if y is greater than or equal to this line, or this negative 3 plus 3/5 x, if it's greater than, we're going to shade above it. Now our line would actually continue on forever and ever and ever going that way. So we're going to shade all of this over here, and it would go on forever. We only get a little picture of it from this little graph. I think you got the idea, hopefully. Okay, now I'm going to give you a little clue on these ones that only have the y or only have the x. And what the deal is that if you just have y, it's going to be horizontal. And then, again, we're going to divide by a positive, so it's going to stay greater. And you're going to shade above that horizontal line. And only x means it's going to be a vertical line. And again, you're not going to divide by a negative, so you're not going to switch the sign. So here you just divide by the 3, divide by 3. You get y is greater than negative 4. So you go on the y-axis to negative 4, and you just draw a horizontal line through there. And since it's there's no equal to sign, we're going to make a dotted line. And put an arrow at the end to show that it keeps going forever and ever in both directions. Okay, and then we're going to shade greater. Again, all these are shading above. I wish we would get one that's shading below, but so far there isn't one. So we're going to shade up here because these are the numbers. These are the y's that are greater than negative 4. Okay, so this one, divide by 4, because now we got to get the x by itself. So that one's a little awkward. It doesn't really follow our steps because it says get the y by itself. But if there is no y, just get the x by itself. So you have x is greater than or equal to -4. Now some of you out of habit will go, oh, wow, it's the same thing, -4. But look, x is greater than or equal to -4, so you have to go on the x axis to -4. And think about it now, because it's on the x, we're going to draw a vertical line, and it's going to be a solid line because it has a little equal to sign under my verb. Hopefully your line's a little bit straighter than mine. In this case, I could have cheated and used my line down below, but I figured you can't cheat. Of course, you could get a ruler. That would make it nice and neat. Let's do that. Why don't you practice being neat, get a ruler, and I'm going to demonstrate being neat. And some of you are laughing at me going, Mrs. Dull, you're crazy. I know I'm crazy. Alright, so some of you, and I think most of you know, they have me as a student, that I know I'm crazy. Alright, and then put an arrow right down here. Ta-da! And that's all I'm doing with you. Okay, the rest is all yours. I think you have, let's see, the next page to do, and the next page to do. So you got lots of practice. Alright, talk to you later. Hope you had fun. This was great. Bye.